Hey guys, it's Kaitlin. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be taking you through all the ways that I project plan and keep track of all of my projects in my bullet journal. I'm going to start by going over my yearly project planning pages, then go into my monthly project planning pages, and then finally show you guys how I break down projects so I can figure out when I need to do stuff so I can actually get them done on time. Because that's kind of what this video is about, isn't it? Alright, so with that out of the way, let's jump into my yearly project planning spreads. I have two main spreads that I like to use for yearly project planning so I can capture and write down all the projects I need to do during the year, and that is my future log and my project log. So starting with my future log, this is a spread where I obviously keep track of all of my events and birthdays, but I also find it's a really great place to keep track of due dates for my graduate school assignments. I find it's really easy for me to differentiate these from my events and birthdays in my future log because I created a custom signifier for due dates, which is that little upward arrow that you see there. And this just gives me a really good look at all of my school assignments that I have going on and when they're due. But if you're not a big fan of keeping your due dates in the same place as your events, I would definitely recommend maybe making a separate spread. This is the one that I did in my last bullet journal where I had a spot to write down the day and the item that was due as well as the percentage. And I even went in and made a little mini calendar so I could get a visual of when all my due dates had to be done by. Now, there's one more spot that I like to track projects on a yearly basis, and that is in my project log. My project log is a spot for me to brainstorm any personal projects, and I like to just do this by making a list of them and then checking them off when they're done. So by keeping all of my due dates in my future log and all of my personal projects that I want to do in my yearly log, I find that both of these spreads are a great way for me to keep track of all of the projects that I want to do in the upcoming year. Now, when it comes to actually migrating these projects so I can start working on them, that is where the monthly project planning comes in. Just like the two spreads that I have for projects in my yearly setup, I have two sections in my monthly setup for project planning as well. The first section is on my calendar, and this is a spot where I like to transfer any personal projects from my project log that I want to do that month. I also have another section which is on the next page, and this is a spot where I like to write down just my due dates for the upcoming month that I have to do for grad school. And these due dates are migrated in from my future log spread. Once I have all of the projects that I have to do for the month written down, then I go into the planning and prepping phase with my project timeline. This project timeline is a way for me to have an overview of all of the projects during the month and when the work for those projects are getting done. So that's a brief explanation of what this section does, but to better explain it, I think I'll just show you what I do with it. First, I like to go in and write down all of the projects that I have going on in the month. This includes personal projects as well as due dates for grad school. Pretty much any project goes in here. Then, after writing them down, I use my due date signifier to mark when the project is due what day. Once I have all my due dates in, then I start planning out when I'm going to do projects. For a simple project like my 1240 blog, I just like to start by making a line which marks when I'm doing the project, and then I'll do a notch to mark any key deliverables or kind of main points in the project. For this project, I only really have to do one thing, which is I need to make sure that all my blog posts are written and I've replied to all of the comments. So that little notch is going to be in reference to this task that I'm writing right here, which corresponds to the 4th of November. So for any projects like this, which are super simple and only require a couple tasks, I'll just go ahead and write those tasks into my task list right away, so they are out of the way and then I don't have to think about them anymore. But I can imagine you guys have projects like I do that are a lot more complicated than this and require a lot more than 1 or 2 deliverables to complete. And these types of projects are going to help us segue into the section of this video where I explain how I break down projects. So for this example, I'm going to be going over how I make this project game plan spread that you see here. And I'm going to be setting up a spread like this for my 2149 paper, which is a pretty hefty paper that I have to write and make sure that I'm really organized about getting it done. Naturally, it wouldn't be one of my videos if there wasn't some element of hand lettering thrown in there, so here it is. Right now I am going in and writing the title of the spread. For this, I chose the very unique and creative title, Paper Game Plan. Just to note, usually when I index this, I'll make a bit more of a detailed title, so I'll probably include the course code so I actually know what course this spread belongs to, but I also will write it here in the little title section underneath the main header of the spread. Once I note the title of the assignment, I also like to write the due date right away, so it's right at the top of the page where I can really easily see it. And then after that, I like to go in and write overview. And this is a spot where I like to note down any key details about the assignment that I want to make sure I don't forget. For example, this assignment is worth 40% of my grade. Very good to know. And I also need to know that I have to write 10 to 12 pages double-spaced, and I need to do APA style references. So once I have those kind of preliminary information pieces out of the way, I then like to break out my project into deliverables. I consider a deliverable to be a piece of work that is part of the greater project. So as you can see here, I'm breaking up my project into 3 deliverables: the prep work deliverable, the rough draft deliverable, and the clean draft deliverable. For each of these deliverables, I'm making a bit of an outline of what specific things need to be in them. For example, in prep work, I need to do a literature review as well as a rough outline. And for each of these deliverables, I also make a line on the right-hand side. And on the right-hand side of that line is where I like to write when I want to have that deliverable finished by. I like to figure this out by making a rough timeline on the other side of the page. I do this by just noting the days I have leading up to when the project is due, and then based on the outline I've created for each deliverable, I kind of map out how much time I think it will take me to do each part of the project. This is by no means an accurate timeline. It's pretty rough, but it helps give me an idea of when I need to be starting different parts of the project. Once I go in and write the parts of the project that need to be due when during the timeline, I then use that to reference back to my deliverable section and write down when the deliverables need to be finished by so that I can actually finish the project on time, because that is really the most important thing to me, that I get my project in on time. Now, another important thing is that once I've completed this game plan, I go back into my project timeline and I mark the time that I'm going to be spending working on that project, as well as noting when the key deliverables are due by making those little notches that I told you about earlier. So that was a quick and dirty overview of how I plan my projects monthly and break down my projects. Now, before I let you go, I just want to show you one more thing which helps me track my progress on my projects, and this is in my daily log. At the bottom of my weekly checklist for my daily log, I have 2 sections, one which is my project section and one which is my upcoming section. In my project section, I like to write down all of the projects I'm working on, whether or not I complete them that week. This just helps me see what's on my plate, what's getting finished, and what is still in progress. For any projects I'm not working on yet but may be due in the future, I like to write these in the upcoming section so I can see what I have going on a week or 2 in advance. And that is it. These are all the strategies that I use in my bullet journal for project planning on a yearly, monthly, and daily basis, as you just saw. I hope that this video was helpful, and I know it was a lot of info, so feel free to go back and rewatch parts if you want to clarify anything. And besides that, if you're still watching, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you all are healthy and happy, and I will see you in next Friday's video.